Perspectives, we're here to inspect it. I'm a small, not a medium. Let us escape from this tedium.
It is truly amazing how speaking your truth can truly change a life. Over a year ago, I recorded this video called Paranormality. At the time, I was grappling with this knowledge that I had since I was a kid. I'd experienced things that made me question the nature of reality. What does life really mean, and how can these things happen? Previously, I'd used this channel as a careers advice area, I suppose, so just sharing my graphic design advice and general learnings, as I at the time was grappling with my fear of public speaking. So through my process of being a better communicator and being more comfortable with speaking out, this story kind of came forward. I felt like I needed to say something. And it was finally at that moment that I decided to record that video. And that video detailed this fantastical story and the most strangest things that I'd been too scared to talk about. And it felt amazing really to talk about it. I felt like I just said my piece and I wasn't expecting it to go anywhere. I just did my thing. And the response at the time was tremendous. People were sending me all these messages and the response was amazing. And I didn't know what to do with it really. I felt like, well, clearly it meant something to people. Clearly it went further. And I hope it formed part of normalizing the conversation about the paranormal, saying it's okay and to not fear simply talking about things that you don't quite understand yet. Maybe opening a platform to other people for them to offer their experiences that may help to educate yourself. And it was at that point that something happened, and I don't know how it happened. I'm not a professional writer in any way, shape or form. I just gave it a go. I wrote an entire book in about a couple of weeks. And this book was all about the bizarre experiences of my life and my learnings and observations around them, starting this conversation, normalizing the conversation about the paranormal. Glad I wrote the book. I didn't expect anything to come of it. I thought, okay, just a life goal thing. I just did that, and hopefully people read it, hopefully not. I wasn't expecting to get published, and applying to a couple of publishers, one offered me a full contract, and I just couldn't believe it. I thought, well, I can't be that good compared to other experienced authors who've been writing for years and years. I thought, okay, just don't question it, just go with it though. And yeah, I mean, it's out there. We polished the book some more, and it's still the original story, just very much more enhanced, and also now for a wider audience, and that will be available March 2026. That's insane. Just from one video that came out of it. Obviously, it was my effort and other people that helped me along the way as well. But really, I'm an experienced author. I don't know what I'm doing, yet I somehow know what I'm doing. And that led to the creation of the Paranormal Perspectives podcast. That podcast as well, like, amazing. Like, it's slowly taken off, but it's been so richly involved with people's beautiful personal first-hand experiences. I've learned so much from meeting the most wonderful people, and my co-host Christine has further enhanced it with her wonderful way of seeing the world and offering her experiences. And to also get a true friend out of that as well is just another wonderful thing. It doesn't matter that we're different ages, though. We're still the same people regardless. And now, yeah, the podcast is slowly taken off, and it's just wonderful. And I suppose this is just really a message to anybody out there, like, maybe you have a story hidden inside of you. Maybe you have something you need to say to the world. It may heal yourself, but also may help to heal others. Heal by educating, heal by normalizing the greater conversation. So, yeah, that's my little intro. It was supposed to be a short one, but that's my little intro, and I'll lead this on to the actual original video itself, and let me know your thoughts. And also keep an eye out for Paranormality. It will be available March 2026. I'll throw a link in there. Hopefully you'll get to read it, and I'd love to hear what you think about it. Like I say, I'm not a professional. I just gave it a go. You could too. I would like to talk about something I don't tend to talk about much on this channel, or not to really many people that don't know me as well. It's only really the closest people who actually kind of know my bizarre life and bizarre journeys. So this particular thing, in summary, I'm going to talk about what I like to call paranormality, that there are some particular events that happen to us, and this one particular to me, that do lead us to question the nature of reality in terms of the way that we perceive reality around us, and also the way our presence works within the reality of the world, as we call it, itself. So I experienced a few events when I was younger that caused me just to question the world, really, to question what I was and what am I seeing. And I suppose it inspired me to seek more out of life, to ask more questions and make more of this interesting school we are part of. So yeah, this is my little story. Hopefully you may have something interesting to take away from that. And yeah, and I kind of want to almost normalize these kind of things though, because they are interesting events. There are things that we can't always explain or even let alone describe. But to not know is kind of part of almost the excitement of life. It's the pursuit of the unknown and the better, and the pursuit of knowledge in itself is just a wonderful thing. We tend to kind of dismiss things that we don't understand because we haven't really fully normalized the not knowing. We tend to, as humans, want to label things by measurements, by labeling colors or countries or cultures or whatever it might be. We like to kind of place our labels on things, and in a way, yes, it does help us to understand the world. We seem to treat it as the absolute truth, as if our perceptions of the world are absolute and applicable across the universe. So yeah, this is kind of my little nugget of information. Maybe there may be some interesting learnings for you at some point. So I suppose here we go. When I was younger, living in Oxford, I unfortunately was involved in an accident that was completely out of my control. Without going into too much detail, it was quite traumatic for the body and the mind. And I was taken to the local hospital to save my life. Ultimately, I was operated on numerous times. They're quite serious operations. And during that experience, I remember being in a tremendous amount of pain that I can't even describe now. Pain of the body and also of the mind. It's the confusion, the shock, everything that people try to do to kind of keep me going. The body was still delayed and reacting to that assistance. So you kind of feel alone in a way. I kept persevering because, of course, you have no choice. It's either die or continue, of course. So thanks to the amazing doctors back then, I survived. But there was one instance that kind of changed my personality entirely. It kind of opened up a door to this pursuit of the unknown and the fascination of the world hidden behind the veil, so to speak. There was one particular operation where I'm not entirely sure what happened though, but I awoke, at least I thought I awoke after this operation. The world didn't quite seem right. So I was stood in the ward. At the time, I could see the beds of the different patients, and the world itself just seemed a bit odd. Like it wasn't quite desaturated in grayscale, but nor could I see the colour that I saw before. It was kind of like the world was saturated in a colour that I hadn't quite seen before. It wasn't quite grey, and it wasn't quite red, for example. It was both and none at the same time. It's a really hard thing to describe. But me being at quite a young age, I knew enough of the world to know what was at least real within that reality, and know enough of what's kind of not right. But my gut was telling me something that's a bit odd about this situation. So I strolled down the corridor through this hospital. I looked into different rooms and saw different patients. I saw different nurses and tried to get their attention. And me being as a young age, of course, I was quite short then. So I was looking up to these different people to get their attention, and nobody would respond. It was quite frightening, really, where something quite traumatic has happened that you can't explain, yet no one is there to help you. So I continued to walk to try and find help somewhere else, and looked into other wards. I saw other rooms full of patients. None of them would hear me calling. None of them would hear me waving at them or trying to kind of pull at their sheets or anything. So I just continued until I got to the end of this hall. And the end of this hall felt different. It kind of felt like there was no time. That's the best way I can describe it. Like everything just came to a stop. And I entered this room that had an opening. Either side of this door was glass, and the door itself was mostly glass, and I opened it to see a very kind of empty, sparse space, not a particularly big room, where the left and the front wall was just empty, a bit dirty with a few marks, as it was a hospital. But to the right of me, I saw a wall full of holes, and it kind of looked like stacked washing machines, where each of them had a door and an opening. And I didn't understand where it was or what it was though, but something seemed odd about this end. It felt like I kind of reached the edge of time itself, I suppose. And that's where I kind of encountered this kind of feeling of, quite an overwhelming feeling of like the infinite, I suppose. It's like that room was the edge of what's endless. And coming from a human understanding finite information and finite principles, to be introduced to like a vast expanse is kind of quite overwhelming. It was a really weird experience, and before I could even, scream out of panic, I suppose, I kind of came to and I actually woke up. And to me, then I thought, I've just woken up twice. That's bizarre. It was actually just, I think, a day after my operation where I had everything in me, basically all different cables and attachments. I was still quite drugged up with the painkillers they'd given me, and I assumed that what I had experienced was a dream, because once you wake, whatever came before was a dream. So, yeah, you could argue for one, okay, the trauma of the situation could trigger a dreamlike state of sorts as your brain tries to process a trauma, tries to normalize and stabilize everything within the mind. It could concoct a situation to help the body to survive, I suppose. Or it could be the fact that, well, okay, they pump you full of drugs to kind of keep you alive and keep you going. That could influence, that could change your perception of the situation. But in my gut, it just felt very real. But again, I just assumed it would be a dream, and that thing nagged me for many years. And so again, back to the point of where I woke up after that dream, I got creative. Before, I wasn't really much of a creative child, but coming back after this dream, I had this urge to paint all the time, and the nurses were incredibly kind then. Once I got better, as in my body had stabilised, I was able to physically move my arms a bit more as my legs were in casts. They very kindly got me some painting bits and pieces, like a sketch pad and some paints, and I just painted all these different colours and things, and it kind of helped me to forget the situation and escape for that moment in time. And then eventually I asked, for some reason I wanted to draw on the window to kind of let the light shine through in different colours kind of thing, and they very kindly did that, thinking they brought temporary paint, and sadly found out that it was permanent paint, which their supervisors weren't very happy about. So my painted window stayed at the hospital for years after I left. Bless them, they're amazing there, just amazing. But yeah, so basically the reason why I'm kind of saying this is after that particular event, everything seemed to open up, and I just had a bizarre life after. So yeah, I came back home when everything were physically stabilised. Eventually had to learn to walk again and all that la-di-da. I had this kind of different perception of the world where it sounds completely mad, because yeah, even then I was told, okay, these things can't happen, because I was raised originally as quite a religious person, as a Catholic at the time. And, their perceptions of reality is written within a book. And by means, I don't mean to offend anybody by saying that, but I'm just going from my learned experience. So anything presented to you is either by the body in the way that we've described to you, or by the book, which we philosophize in a kind of way. So I had these kind of different feelings, I suppose, coming out, where I could feel almost like the seasons changing sometimes, where I'd kind of look forward to spring coming in, because I had this kind of light, kind of elegant kind of feeling, but very kind of strong feeling of kind of growth and nourishment. And the changing of the seasons to winter, for example, had this particular feel. And I can't even begin to verbalize how that would feel, but I just assumed that was normal then. And in amongst all these kind of different feelings I was picking up, I was drawing all the time. I just used to just draw and throughout school. I was advised to be part of different kind of art clubs, or help to decorate the stage for certain school plays, and I was just obsessed by it. And it was the only time I felt back then where I felt normal, for that moment in time where everything just made sense. But me being a kid, of course, I assumed that the rest of the world was like that. And as you get older, you talk to more people, you become more knowledgeable and versed about the world, and realise that, yeah, I realised myself, probably it may not be the same. as the standard person. So going by my religious doctrine, I withheld that and was too scared to even say, because it made me perceive that I was evil or imperfect or whatever it might be. And the life that I spent growing up in Oxford, the house in itself, we would have weird events in the house that we were in. It was, quite a nice suburb of Oxford. Nothing glamorous or anything, but we're kind of on this hill overlooking the beautiful city, and that's one memory that I'll always remember. And this house had some strange noises. At first, I was the one hearing them, where I would be in certain rooms, I'd hear whistling. Sometimes it would be whistling from the hallway, sometimes it would be whistling from the garden. I just assumed then, well, it must be one of our neighbours, We're quite a happy neighbour living opposite us. He likes to whistle music as he kind of walks down the road, kind of thing, and maybe it was him. And then the whistling came indoors. There were times when I was in the kitchen making tea, and this loud whistling would appear in my ear right next to me, make me jump. I've spilt a few cups of tea back in the day, as naturally it's like a knee-jerk reaction. And the whistling got louder and louder, more regular, and suddenly it started to happen to other people. My sister would hear it. I said to her once, as we're in the kitchen, we just heard it at that same moment. I said to her, "Did you hear that?" She said, "Yes." I said to her then, "Do you hear that much?" "Yeah, I hear it all the time. I thought it was just me." That's when it began to click that there's something a bit odd about this house. And then friends would come over and they'd hear the whistling louder and louder in front of their faces. And we were just kind of known as the whistling house. And it kind of grew more bizarre over time, where this whistling, it didn't feel threatening or anything at all. It kind of felt friendly, bizarrely. I just kind of got used to it. I just accepted it then. I never really questioned whether it was paranormal or not. I thought, this is just my home. This is just what it does. But eventually, there came a period of about 3 or 4 months where I'd wake up in the middle of the night, be between about 2 and 4 in the morning. Sometimes I just couldn't sleep because of the sound in my room. And it used to sound like a room full of people conversing, laughing, almost like it was a party, quite a happy occasion. And when I woke, it didn't feel threatening or scary or nasty. I should just sit and listen. Because the first time I heard it, of course, naturally your logical mind would come in and think, well, next door must be having a party, or this could be something from down the road. It could be blowing in the wind, because sometimes I had the window open at night, sometimes not. But either way, it's happened regularly, and it became almost a comforting thing to me. And to a point where sometimes I just couldn't sleep because it was so loud in my room that I couldn't sleep. So at that point, of course, naturally, I started to speak to the rest of the family. "Did you hear that party last night? There's something kind of strange happened at all?" No, I was fast asleep. And it was just a weird thing. And again, alongside the whistling, continuous whistling, and the sort of the crowds that I could hear at night, the house was just bizarre. And it kind of boiled to a point where I had one of the most amazing experiences that I can't explain to this day. We had this most beautiful tortoiseshell cat, Puss, we called her, creatively named. She used to follow me everywhere. She used to protect me as a baby, and I kind of grew up with her, and she was with us for quite a good few years. So it's about this point, I was about 12 years old, where our cat, unfortunately, she had passed away that night. And that night, our neighbour very kindly took the body of our cat for us, just to allow us to kind of get over it, though. And she looked after our cat for that night until we planned to bury her. And so I saw my cat had died that night. So there was no question as to whether she was passed over or not. And that in itself, very sad, because I absolutely loved that cat. And that night I laid in bed. I just couldn't sleep, and it was about sort of 10:30, 11 o'clock, and that was late for me back then. I had to be much of a night owl now. But I laid on the bed just thinking about my cat, and trying to kind of find some sense in what happened, and just begin that kind of grieving process. I was absolutely devastated, and I felt this thing at the end of my bed, and it felt like a weight was passing up to where my feet were, and I felt like step after step after step followed up my legs and to my sort of waist to my shoulders, as if somebody was walking next to me. And I looked kind of forward to see what it was, just thinking, automatically that my cat was there. And then for a second, then thinking, oh, she passed away that night, but I felt she was there. And I looked forward and I could see that the bed was compressing step by step, as if there were footsteps there. And I could hear the most loudest purring sound as it got closer to the top of my head. And my cat very famously every night used to sleep at the top of my head. It's almost like a hat cat, best way to describe it, bless her. So she used to sit just above my head every night, and it was just amazing. We had like a special friendship, and so I felt like she wanted to do that one last time. And I felt like it walk up to my shoulder, up to my head, and then just sit, and I could feel the heat of her being there. Any logical person would kind of question and start almost freaking out at that point. But bizarrely, I felt completely paralyzed, yet completely calm, like I couldn't move. I just sat with her purring at the top of my head for a good hour after that point. I remember kind of refusing to fall asleep, because I knew that would be my last night with her. And, eventually I fell asleep. I woke up, and it was gone. No purring, no heat, no weight, no sounds, no nothing. And that morning I woke up, not sad, but happy. It's almost like I had a chance to say goodbye. And after that point, I found it easier to kind of say goodbye to that, beautiful animal. And it's one of those things that I kind of question, like, how was that even possible? I can't even begin to explain that, yet I witnessed that. I have a very kind of exact mind when it comes to remembering events. And still to that day, that's stuck with me as something that I thought, well, there's clearly more to life than this. I'm absolutely fascinated with the scientific world and have been so since a young age. I believe there's so much in the world that is yet to be explained. It's kind of pre-science. So ultimately, what could be perceived as paranormal is pre-science. Just thinking back to the days long ago where it was perceived that only their perceived God could create fire. You think about the story about Prometheus stealing the fire from the gods. We did a similar thing a long time ago where we eventually could create our own fire, but eventually we could create our own light. We could create our own power. We could create our own food and so on. So things that were once historically seen as supernatural or different to reality, or at least perceived reality at the time, were once, that particular way. Things change over time. Science fiction does eventually become science fact. So these particular events, alongside many, many other events in my life, I could talk about this all day, have kind of led me to be the why person. So I question the nature of reality, understanding that my senses, being smell, sight, sound, touch, and so on, are limited to my human body and my human perceptions. So almost with humility, I accept the fact that my perceptions are limited by those interactions. Some of us have less senses than us as well. But either way, we're limited by our bodies and our perceptions of the world. So we have to kind of humbly accept that there are perceptions greater than ourselves, and we shouldn't assume what is and what isn't. And what isn't proven doesn't mean it can't be proven or disproven. It ultimately leaves it open. Thinking about the Schrodinger's box theory about the cat in the box. The cat left in the box for X period of time can either have died of starvation or still be alive. You only know until the box is uncovered. And it's that kind of philosophy, I suppose, is the application that I apply to life in itself. There's much that I have witnessed and perceived, but it doesn't matter how much I've perceived, the box will always still remain closed to me because I know there are perceptions beyond what I can see. So without babbling on to all the kind of crazy stuff, this was an interesting conversation, and I could speak some more about this, but I don't kind of want to come across a bit crazy anyway. But I'm very much a spiritual scientist, the best way to describe it though. So yeah, do things once, do things twice, and repeat them again. If you can do them multiple times, and that's no observation that you can note. Sometimes you'll only experience things just once. But either way, just be the observer of life. Sit back, take in information. Don't assume so much. Just be the eternal student, because there's a lot more to the world than it seems. And I think our interpretations of reality are about to vastly expand in the coming years, and that's something I'll touch upon in other videos. But yeah, thanks for listening, and I hope you haven't fallen asleep at this point. I hope I haven't spooked you too much as well, but I think a lot of my experiences early on, were kind of a bit traumatic. I think a lot of my, paranatural events were kind of quite happy and quite peaceful, and it's kind of led me to be the person I am today, forever inquisitive. So keep on questioning. Thank you.
Choice, sharing dreams and blowing off steam. We'll lend you a hand, we'll let you stand, sharing stories about the unknown. Paranormal perspectives, we're here to inspect it. I'm a small, not a medium. Let us escape from this tedium, learning from each other, breaking barriers, a message of hope, birthed from the unknown. Who you gonna call? I'm not a ghostbuster, no proton packs, just crossing streams of knowledge. It's not so scary when things get hairy. It's not the paranormal, just future normal. Breaking barriers, no longer the carrier, releasing the fear and replacing it with knowledge. Understanding each other, we uncover a whole new point of view within you. Paranormal perspectives, we're here to inspect it. I'm a small, not a medium. Let us escape from this tedium, learning from each other, breaking barriers, a message of hope, birthed from the unknown. The only stream we need to cross is the platforms to get the message across. Knowing each other, sister to brother. No ghost or spirit or demon will ever get the better of this medium. Paranormal perspectives, we're here to inspect it. I'm a small, not a medium. Let us escape from this tedium, learning from each other, breaking barriers, a message of hope, birthed from the unknown.